Hello again, it's Lock Noob. Today I just wanted to review a cutaway Euro lock. It's a re-pinnable one that I bought from Locksaway on the UK eBay site. First things first, I actually really like this, and the reason I wanted to do a review on it was that there are lots and lots of cutaway locks out there. I wouldn't say this is any better than any of the other ones out on the market, but this is about £18, and I think the quality of this one is particularly good. So let me show you what you actually get. You get 30 pins with this, and you can see a selection of them here. They're all kind of color coded, and they provide you with the opportunity to repin the actual lock body itself, which is a nice brass lock, a number of different ways. How do you do that? Well, they give you a small Allen key or an Allen wrench, and you just open up the grommet screws on the top here and pop the springs out and put the key and driver pins in whichever order you want. It does come already pinned, and they do give you a key. I quite like this. When you are new to lockpicking, it's quite nice having a key available just to, reassure yourself that the lock actually does work. And there we go. And the finish of this one is particularly nice. You can see here that it's been milled out where the pins all are, and you can see here the key pins as you turn the lock. It's a really nice lock to demonstrate how the keys actually work and the locks actually work. So you can see all the pins being lifted to the right height till they all reach a shear line. Then you can turn the lock round and you have an open. So I think I've already said that I like this lock. I think it's very good value. Love the fact it's re-pinnable. It's a really nicely made lock. It's not sharp, it's well milled. You can't see any burr on the metal there. It's just a really nice piece to have. One thing I would say that isn't necessarily a positive for these types of lock, and it's just something which is inherent when you start cutting away the metal, is that the pins themselves feel different in the lock. It's because, of course, they, instead of being able to slide up and down freely in here, they're recessed slightly. They can dig into the milled parts of the lock. So when you are mounting this in a vise to pick, I tend to want to put the tension on in a anti-clockwise turning motion, so that if anything the pins are being pushed towards this side of the lock where we don't have the cutaway. I fear if you do put tension on clockwise, then the pins have a tendency just to push into these cutaway grooves a little bit more. I think basically what I'm saying is you tend to get a slightly odd feeling lock. Other Euro locks just don't really feel like that. You can see a similar sort of size Euro lock I've got here with a similar sort of keyway, and these do feel a whole lot different, even though the profiles and probably the pinning is very similar. The fact is they do feel different. I think Deviant Ollam in one of his books says that you really should practice on real locks, and I think that he has a good point. That said, I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with practicing on these, especially when you're trying to learn to move from pin to pin and get a feel for the inside of these locks, and just learn how to move from pin to pin from the inside, learn how to tension, learn how locks work, be able to see the insides, investigate when something doesn't feel right or you think you're on a certain pin and you're not. There's so many times that I think I'm probably on pin 6 and I'm actually on pin 3. I'm new, you know, and I think that as long as you bear in mind that these aren't necessarily the best locks to learn on, they're still really good value. You might also see amongst these pins here, these are 6 spool pins. I have to admit, I've not really started to learn spool pins so much. Although I do have this Master Lock 140 that apparently has 3 spool pins in, but they must be very shallow because they don't seem to give me much in the way of counter rotation when I pick them. But it's really nice to have these. It would be extra nice, of course, to have some serrated pins as well. I think that if there could be 6 serrated pins with this kit, that would just be fantastic. I might try to show myself single pin picking this as it came, you know, just for giggles, in a second. Okay, so I have this Re-pinnable Eurocylinder cutaway lock from Locks Away. Now in my vise, I've tried to put it in the vise so I can't see the pins so much, but at least you can see that this is a cutaway lock. I think it's a nice compromise. I will be using a Peterson style pry bar, and you can see that I'm using the one with there we go, some little teeth there, so that I can get it right here by the pins. And really important is the direction of tension when on these practice locks. If I'm going to turn it clockwise, which would be more comfortable for me while I'm trying to turn it around the camera, you tend to push the pins into these grooves, which you can just about see. I've tried to hide them, like I said, so I don't want you to think I'm cheating when I'm picking this. Push the pins into these grooves. That gives really weird feedback. In fact, sometimes just like no feedback at all. So the best way to do this, and it gives it a slightly more realistic feel, is to try to do it anti-clockwise. Again, because I'm pushing against the wrench, it's sort of hard to get the right level of tension, but hey, I'll give it a go. What pick am I using? Well, I did just buy this and review this Southord Max Euro hook, made from high gauge stainless steel. I gave it a very positive review, despite the fact it's 3 times the price of a standard Southord Euro hook. And let's have a go. So I'm going to reach around the camera. I'm going to try and go down the middle of the keyway here. Hopefully got the camera angled just right so you can see. So I'm not going in at the top. I'm just going straight through the center. This is shallow enough that it shouldn't disturb the pins, and because this is sort of picked straight out of the box, I don't think the bidding is particularly challenging on this lock straight away. But that's good, because I'm not the best or most experienced single pin picker. But that's what practice locks are for. So let's give this a go. So I'm just going to start at the back, move from pin to pin, and you can probably hear those pins jumping back as I'm picking them. I haven't found anything that's binding yet. I think I'm on pin 2, pin 1, pin 1 just clicked. So I think pin 1 was holding us back, and I just dropped my pick. So let's go in to the back again. You can see actually, if I do put the pick in at the top, it's this particular Southord is able to just wiggle around that warding really nicely actually. It starts at the back end, right. Pin 6 seems to be sticking a bit, so let's give that a little press down. Pin 5, 4, had a little click to it. 3, 2, and 1. Not getting a lot of good feedback off this, to be honest. Let's try going at the back again. Maybe it's that pin 6 which is being a bit of a pain. Let's have a see if I can get him a bit better. Okay, well, let's go front to back then. 2, 3, pin 4, I think. Pin 5. See if I get that. Pin 5 seems to be resisting a little bit. Can I push that down a bit? Yes, I think that just clicked in. Let's try pin 6. Can I guess on pin 6? One thing with the shallow hook is, of course, it's sort of sometimes hard to get the pin, if it really needs to be pushed down all the way. It's really hard to kind of do that with such a shallow hook, but we'll try. There we go. Move pin to pin. And back on pin 1. Pin 1 seems to be sticking a little bit there. See if I can get a little feel on that one. Pin 1. Go back through again. Pin 2 had a nice click to it, so 1 and 2 I think. Let's have feel 1 and 2 feel done. 3. Pin 4 is now sticking. Let's have a look if I can get on pin 4. 1, 2, 3. Oh, yeah, here he is. Nice click on that pin 4. Let's go back. So let's try 6. 6 is loose, which means that it must be 5, which is got a nice click on 5. I think they're all picked, so I think the last binding pin must be pin 6, of course, typically right at the back. I'm going to try with this pick still, see if I can get him. Otherwise, maybe I need a different pick. I think I've got it. So here we go. There we go. So that's an open. Again, these locks do feel weird. I have the key, and you can see the bidding on this. It's not massively challenging. They're all quite high, and then there's a couple of positions in the middle. But again, hard to get feedback on these locks that feel the same as the standard locks. I only picked it just for giggles, really. Okay, I'll see you next time.